Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Love and Marriage Huntsville review. Do me a favor and hit the like button as we jump right into this train wreck. I'm so over these people. Destiny and Martell meet up to talk about life and to talk about Mel, in my opinion. Destiny says that, right now she's just trying to focus on some other things like her business and her father because they found two additional spots in her father. Now, I don't know where they are. I believe their cancer is based on her saying that, they're going to oncology. Whenever I hear that word oncology, oftentimes that's what they're dealing with. So she's just trying to get in a space where she could be there for him and where he does what he needs to do in order to make sure that he continues to be on this earth. So she was like, I'm going to have to take him back to the hospital, but I'm also going to look into some holistic things that may help things as well. I think that's a smart idea. I think that the way that cancer has ravaged through families, if any little thing that you can do to continue to fight to make somebody feel stronger, then go for it. And if her doing more natural remedies does it, then let's do it. If I was in her situation, I would do the same thing. We find out that Destiny has found another place for her Madani line of candles and body mist. At this point, they're now 100% e-commerce, so she's looking forward to just pushing that. I personally, if I were Destiny, I don't know how long she's been doing it. If you know, put it down below. But if I were Destiny, I would want to try to work the business out of my home first before I jumped into a space, because we already saw that her having the store was unsuccessful. And I'm sure this is a much smaller location, but these are things to consider too, because if you don't make enough sales, you're spending money to rent this property that you may not be really benefiting from, because in some instances you might just be breaking even. But hopefully she did the necessary research to make sure that she was good to go. So Martell wants to know about the trip. Destiny lets him know, the trip was okay. Mel and I kind of got into it because I brought up the fact that, she was teaching, your friend how to respectfully cheat. I didn't like how she was on the phone at all times of the night and stuff like that, talking with Coleslaw. So he was like, yeah. Because, anything that's going to make Mel be in a negative light, Martell likes to hear that. I don't get why Destiny's not understanding Mel being on the phone with the girl, though. She was trying to gather information. That doesn't mean she's trying to teach anybody how to cheat. It just means she's trying to gather what she needs to gather. Me personally, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't talk to somebody before and found out what information I needed to find out, why I politely packed up all of my ex's things and had them waiting nicely for him. Because it's good to know what's really going on. Oh, you got messages you want to show me? Oh, sure, you can show me those messages. Oh, you got email? Oh, send me the emails too. Like, that's where I was with it. So I'm not faulting anyone for getting additional information. She says, what the funny thing is, what's ironic is, after that, Mel was so nice to me. She tells us that Mel has so many faces, she just doesn't know what to make of it. I don't like how Destiny's sitting here acting like Mel was trying to kiss her butt when Destiny herself was being overly nice to Mel as well. After all, didn't we catch you mouthing to Mel that you love her? Didn't you want to make sure that the person who was sitting in the seat that you were sitting in got up so you could sit next to her? So don't just try to make it seem like, oh, she was being overly nice to me, when there weren't moments where you were doing the same exact thing. So we go from that to talking about Trish. Martell's like, why would you bring up Trish? And she's like, because we're sitting here talking about working out and Trish is my trainer. He's like, so many different people are bringing up Trish and saying things about this situation when there's nothing to it. But they're saying so much about the situation because of what Martell and Trish presented, because of how Martell and Trish handled the situation. Martell, very much so, wanted this to happen the way it's happened because Martell needed a storyline. What else does he have to give under this house that he claims he's a builder on, even though he doesn't have a builder's license? What else does he have to give other than that? Because him and Mel can't talk about what's going on outside with the kids and everything else for whatever reasons. Well, I think it might be because of the law, but either way, there's certain things that they aren't discussing. So what else does he have? He's not pushing his wine. He's not pushing the suits that he was supposed to be doing. He's not pushing his book. What else does he have? Martell says, when this happened, he and Mel were doing their own things. Like Mel was really doing her own thing. And he just feels like Trish made the whole situation awkward. They both made it awkward, as I stated. He doesn't like that the Scott brothers keep bringing attention to what he's done. And he says he really doesn't like that Marceau makes all these statements about what he wouldn't do and how he's not going to get divorced. And what Martell has done that's gotten him to this situation. And he's like, but you act like I'm the only one cheating. You act like we haven't been places together. It's the same story over and over and over and over again. The same story that we've been hearing since the seasons first began, or the series first began. With that being said, at this point, it's getting old because we're not being given any facts. The closest we got to see any type of cheatation between other people was the picture that his own brother Maurice put up on his page, and the girls were in the picture. Other than that, we haven't seen it. So why are we continuing to talk about this if we don't have proof? Destiny's like, look, I don't know if Martell is saying these things about the cheating and the accusations because he's lashing out or if it's because there's some truth to it. But either way, whatever the situation is, it's not my business. Let those married people basically do what those married people are going to do. On to Melanelle. There was no purpose in this scene whatsoever. Like none. I don't understand why we're sitting here and we're seeing these two ladies talk and there's no resolution whatsoever. So Mel and Nell link up because Nell is still upset with Mel about some things. One of those things being the whole name tag situation. They waste no time for Mel to jump in and complain by saying like, what you doing over here? You haven't, called. I haven't spoken to you or seen you. And my question is, you're talking about how she hasn't called or spoken to you, but did Mel reach out, or does she always expect people to reach out to her? Nell says when it comes to, the name tag situation, my feelings were hurt. And I also didn't like the fact that you gave Sonny like a room. Like, I've known you for longer. I would think that I probably should have had the room that Sonny had. So Mel's like, I didn't think that it would be that big of a deal. You're older than us. Why would you be worried about a name tag? And I just don't like that she does these little digs here and there. We know that Nell is older. You don't have to keep on saying it. We're aware. And it comes across as you trying to shade her and as you being disrespectful. So Mel talks about how, you say you're a mentor and you say you're a counselor. And Nell says, I have mentored you in the past. Mel starts running all over the kitchen. Oh my God. And I'm looking like, how old are we? I'm not into it. In previous seasons, mentor, counselor, whatever it was that she is or was to you, Mel has admittedly said that both her and Martell often tapped into the Fletchers for advice when it came to their marriage. So regardless if it was a mentor or a counselor, I don't care. The point is, Mel, you're acting like there were not periods of time where you were tapping into them and you were going to them for advice and you were utilizing them. So the running around the kitchen and acting like this lady is coming out of nowhere with the things that she says is very odd and performative to me. And I just didn't like it. Nell says, I'm talking about how Chris and I would talk to you. Mel tries to downplay it, and she's like, if I need to counsel, I'll talk to my therapist, my mom, and God. That's who I can talk to. She says when she thinks of a mentor, she tells us this, she thinks of business. We know there are different types of mentorships. It doesn't always have to be business, but this is what Mel is saying. We then find out that Mel is upset herself. She's upset with Nell because of an interview that she did. I didn't write down the person's name, but she did an interview, her and Fletcher, on YouTube, and she didn't like that Nell said that Mel could be stubborn and hard-headed and that the problem is both of them. And then the clip is played, and she also said like she's draining and stuff like that. So Mel's like, this is not the type of stuff that you say about a friend. Here's the thing. I feel like certain things are off limits when it comes to friends on social media, right? But I feel like as a friend, you telling me that I'm stubborn isn't you being a bad friend. It's you telling me the truth, which is that sometimes I'm stubborn. If you're my friend, you should be able to call me out and tell me about myself if need be. Maybe don't tell me about myself to a content creator, but also I don't feel like Mel is right by trying to censor people, because Mel says and does things as well that she wouldn't want others to do. She does it later on with the whole Maurice discussion. Mel says, I don't bother you. Martell is the one who taps into you more than me. So if anybody should be called draining, it should be him. Nell's like, yeah, that's true. And she like lets it brush off. She tells us that Mel wants people to just talk about themselves and say no comment when it comes to her. And I put at the end, no point in this conversation. It really wasn't, especially because we learned later on that Nell was upset about that conversation too, and she didn't tell her in that moment. Maurice and his DUI. We found out nothing about the situation. All the cast is talking about Maurice being arrested for a DUI. His first call, he says, was to Kimmy, and he feels sad because he knows that Kimmy is naturally a worrier and that this will add to her worry. Excuse me. Also, it's been said that stress is not a good thing when it comes to cancer. So that is also something that needs to be considered. I hope Kimmy, she's a survivor. She has been doing well. I hope that she's making sure that she's creating environments for herself where she's not putting additional strain on her body, because that matters, right? So we see him and Kimmy talk, and he says that the hardest part was having to make that call to Kimmy to say where he was and to ask if she can bail him out. Kimmy's like, I thought you fell asleep at work. So because I'm accustomed to you being in bed by a certain time, I went to the office to check on you and you weren't there. And when she said it, I was like, is this something normal? Like, is that what you normally do? That you go as far as to leaving the house to go check on him and to see if he's at the office? Something about that sounded a little off to me. And my question is, where was he? If he was supposed to be at the office, why wasn't he at the office? Why was he out drinking? But I guess we won't find that out until much later on. So she tells him as they're talking, like, I worry if you're telling me everything. And rather than saying, yes, I'm telling you everything, he evades the question. He doesn't even answer it. He says, like, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how to process this whole thing. I don't even know if and how you could help me. She didn't say, how can she help you? She says, I wonder if you're telling me everything, which he's probably not, Kimmy. Kimmy's like, overall, I'm just going to have to trust the process, and I'll be here for him the same way that he's been here for me. Has he really been there for you? I mean, in some instances, but y'all did give us that whole storyline about how he wasn't there for your needs when you needed to not be poked and how you had to fake it. So I hope that he truly was there for you off camera. And I hope that this works out in whatever way it's supposed to work out. He talks about people and how different people are going to be disappointed once they see this, because they're not going to know certain answers, and he can't answer their questions because it's an ongoing case, and he can't say anything because of that. End scene. On to Ken and Trish. They're cleaning out the garage. They're talking about the kids and all the things that they have coming up. We find out that Trish wants to throw a party for the kids, especially for her son Xavier, because he has graduated. She had plans to invite some of the cast, and she plans to invite his father. They then talk about Maurice saying that they saw stuff on social media. They wanted to reach out, but they didn't. So for right now, they're going to mind their business. Ken then complains about Marquez and how Marquez at the graduation thanked him for coming to the graduation like he extended the invite. He doesn't like that he keeps talking badly about them. He also doesn't like that he thanked him knowing goodness well that he paid or gave him gas money to get there. I don't understand what's going on with Marquez. I don't understand, Marquez, how you could be comfortable as a man going to another man that is currently sleeping with your wife and asking him for money. You have friends and you have other family. And if you don't have a job or if you're low on funds, that should have been the last place that you went to get any type of money. It is ridiculous. What is going on here? Trish says that the papers still haven't been taken care of. That after graduation, the plan was that they would get the papers notarized. And they haven't gotten notarized. Trish, if you really wanted this divorce, you could have had it by now. I'm not trying to hear that. You keep brushing it off on him, but some part of me feels like even though she's complaining about it, she's not in a rush to get them signed because she would have done it a long time ago, number one. And number two, because I think that she fears that if she gets this done, then the next step is automatically going to be Ken proposing. And I don't think she's ready to get married yet. Ken says he's ready for them to get the divorce so that Marquez no longer has any leverage over her. He can't even do certain things right now because of the whole divorce situation. He's like, even let's say I wanted to propose right now, I can't even do that. You're already cohabitating with the married woman, so why stop there? Like, you might as well. You're doing all these other things. Doesn't make sense to me. On to Chris and Nell. Chris and Nell head to the dance studio for some dance lessons. We barely see them dance, though. She talks about meeting up with Mel and the things that Mel didn't like that she said. And she's like, she said something about us counseling. And she said in front of her, I took it. But after I left, I started thinking about things and marinating on it and the amount of time that we spent dealing with both Martell and Mel. And Chris is like, yeah. She says, if it's not mentoring or counseling, then what is it? I personally would call it being a friend. I feel like if you do not have a degree in a particular field, then you cannot just put a label upon yourself. Because if I'm being honest, now based on her situation and the shadiness with her and Chris that's come out, that would be the last person I'm trying to get advice from. Also, I see how you are with your kids. So would I really want you to counsel me? Probably not. But I do see that Nell is bothered because Mel's kind of minimizing what it is that she and her husband did for them. And I don't think that that's fair. Chris says, look, we don't got to talk about them anymore. That's fine. We actually haven't really been talking about them. Nell's like, I get it, but I get upset when she does certain things, and she gets mad when I tell her how I feel about things. She says she doesn't want to hear it, and she's just too used to having do-girls around her, people who just do what she wants them to do. Real friends should be able to tell the truth. Yes, they should. But I don't know if we've truly seen Mel in recent years with this cast, them being friends. I always felt like they were frenemies and we just didn't know it. They talk about Maurice and the arrest, and because Nell made comments before about black men being arrested. And Nell says, I know what I said in the past, but if you did the crime, then you're going to have to be ready for the consequences. We then see Mel and her rec center at the rec center with Shamia. No one else came to the event. Mel feels that the Scotts didn't come because they're trying to avoid any scrutiny at the time. I feel like it's a little bit of both that, and they also don't rock with Mel. So they're serving the community for this Seventh Heaven sponsored event, and it's spaghetti, string beans, and rolls. I was very underwhelmed with the spread, but if you do not have anything, then I'm sure, I'm not trying to act like what she did wasn't nice, because that was nice of her to do it. She didn't have to do it. I just thought there would be more, like, I don't know, I guess I kind of thought it would be more of a thing where you were like giving them bags of food to bring home. I didn't realize it was going to be the thing where we just serve you this one meal. The subject of Maurice comes up. And even though Mel doesn't want people to talk about her, Mel got plenty to say about Maurice. She talks about how she didn't text them because she didn't feel there was a need to, and how after Maurice got out, he was out on social media, partying it up with a bottle of liquor in his hand. Mel says, I think this is serious. I look at the situation. My grandmother passed due to a drunk driver. She's like, look at him, look at how reckless he is. They've always been the party type of people. Maurice has always been the worst. He gives us all these long speeches and acts like he's Martin Luther King when he has all this stuff going on. Mel's like, the group has let me down. It's mugshot after mugshot after mugshot. She's right about that. It is a lot of mugshots. But Mel, you could have very easily been in the same situation based on the footage that was released from you. And I'm not trying to condemn her in any type of way. You took money from me. It's no telling what I would have done. I just feel like it's real easy to cast judgment when you haven't been in a situation. And I'm not making any excuses for this DUI thing. I'm talking about some of the other mugshots that, were out there. Because I don't even know what Destiny's situation is. I can't speak to that either. But I'm sure like there's levels to all of this stuff. She's like, what happened to Black excellence? That's the whole thing that we said we were. And at this point, I don't want my name to be put with theirs. And if you keep it up, I don't think it will. I think that at some point, Mel might be phased out. I really feel like they need to revamp the whole thing because none of them are giving anything. And I'm really over the same storylines over and over again. But you all let me know what you thought of this episode. If there's something that I left out and you want to talk about it, feel free to put it down below. Until next time.